Dragon Age used to mean complex party dynamics, choice-driven narratives, tactical combat, and companions who felt like people instead of stat blocks. If the latest entries left you feeling like that era ended, you're not wrong. But that design philosophy didn't die with BioWare's pivot. If you're mourning what Dragon Age became, these are where you'll find what it was. Greedfall, The Dying World is the most obvious BioWare homage here. Spider's 2024 game wears its Dragon Age influences openly. This is the double-A game classic BioWare fans have been waiting for. The party banter evokes Mass Effect and Dragon Age without copying them wholesale. The faction system asks you to balance competing interests, colonial powers, indigenous nations, religious orders, merchant guilds, without a clear, correct path. Siding with one faction alienates another, and the game tracks those decisions across a campaign where diplomatic solutions require understanding everyone's motivations rather than just picking the morally obvious answer. Combat is real-time with tactical pause, blending action and strategy in ways that echo Dragon Age Origins' approach. Building your character around specific weapon types and magic schools creates distinct playstyles. Companions have their own skill trees that make party composition meaningful, but it shows its budget in production values. Animation is stiff. Some environments feel less detailed than the ambition warrants. Certain voice performances are uneven. The world is smaller than it wants to be. For players who specifically want a game that feels like playing Dragon Age in 2024, Greedfall, The Dying World is the closest thing available.
Why are you helping us?
Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire is what happens when Obsidian takes the BioWare formula and makes every system deeper. Released in 2018, this is a game that understands companion dynamics, faction politics, and choice architecture at a design level that rivals, and in some areas surpasses, BioWare's best work. Struggles with identity in ways that feel genuinely complex. Religious fervor creating friction with multiple party members, generating conflicts whether you mediate them or not. That's what you can expect with the characters. The faction system is where the game earns its complexity. 4 major factions, each have legitimate claims, deep histories, and leaders with comprehensible motivations. Choosing between them requires understanding colonial politics, economic exploitation, and cultural preservation in ways most RPGs avoid entirely. No choice is clean, and the ending reflects accumulated decisions rather than a final act pivot. Ship exploration gave it personality. Sailing between islands created downtime that allowed companion conversations to breathe naturally. Deadfire loses players in density. The writing is verbose, the lore is deep, and the game assumes you're willing to read. Some players find the companion interjections during dialogue excessive. The ship combat, while atmospheric, feels undercooked mechanically compared to the tactical RPG system surrounding it. For players who want BioWare-style companions embedded in a world with genuine political complexity, this is essential.
What is my task?
Baldur's Gate 2 is where BioWare perfected the party-based RPG formula they'd been refining since the first game. Released in 2000, this is the template every game on this list references, directly or indirectly. The companion writing here established standards the genre still measures itself against. The comic reliefs never undermine emotional stakes. Characters carry grief that shapes every interaction. Some have abrasive exteriors that hide complexity that only reveals itself if you invest time in understanding her perspective. Party banter reveals relationships that exist independent of your involvement. They tell absurd stories whether you're paying attention. Some despise each other in ways that create genuine friction. Siding with certain members result in other party members leaving permanently. The game doesn't warn you before crossing these lines. The tactical combat using AD and D 2nd Edition rules has aged into something specific, demanding, occasionally opaque, but deeply rewarding for players who invest in understanding the systems. spell interactions, positioning, equipment synergies all matter enough that optimizing your party composition becomes its own strategic layer. But it definitely shows its era in the interface design. Inventory management is tedious. The pathfinding breaks in tight spaces. Some encounter designs lean on cheap difficulty rather than tactical challenge. The enhanced edition smoothed rough edges without compromising what made the original special. This remains the definitive example of what classic BioWare meant.
On my right.
You are. Lead the way.
Divinity Original Sin 2 earns its place here not by imitating BioWare, but by solving the same problems differently. Released in 2017, this is a game where companion reactivity, elemental combat synergy, and player choice intersect to create experiences that feel personally authored rather than pre-written. The Origin Characters system makes every companion a potential protagonist. Playing as Loci makes her demon possession your story. The Red Prince's political intrigue, Fane's undead secrets, Sebel's revenge. Each origin provides a distinct perspective. The game assumes multiple play-throughs. The companion relationships develop through approval systems that track not just your choices, but how they align with each companion's values. Beast respects rebellion against authority. Ifan values pragmatism over idealism. The interactions between companions create conflicts independent of your involvement. Relationships form and fracture based on party composition. The elemental combat system demands party coordination. Fire and oil, water and electricity, blood and poison. Building a party that chains these interactions becomes a tactical puzzle where companion abilities matter mechanically and narratively. Where it too differs from BioWare's approach is structure. The game prioritizes emergent storytelling over authored narrative, meaning some players never trigger companion quests because they miss contextual triggers. The loot density is overwhelming. The final act rushes compared to the meticulous pacing of Fort Joy. The companion depth and reactivity are genuine enough to satisfy anyone missing BioWare's golden era.
The dwarf lies in a...
Wasteland 3 takes the BioWare companion template and buries it in ice, cynicism, and moral decisions where every option is terrible. Released in 2020 by In Exile, this is a post-apocalyptic RPG where your party consists of deeply damaged people navigating a world that punishes altruism and rewards pragmatism. But your choices still define who you are when the bullets stop flying. Alcoholic whose competence depends on staying drunk. Family loyalty conflicts with moral clarity. Grappling with whether artificial consciousness deserves ethical consideration. These aren't power fantasies. They're broken people clinging to purpose. The choice architecture operates on the BioWare model of no clean answers. Save one settlement and abandon another. Arrest a murderer who's the only person keeping a vital operation running. Execute a prisoner to satisfy an ally's revenge, or spare them and lose that alliance. The game tracks consequences across the entire campaign, and late-game reactivity makes Hour 1 decisions feel meaningful retroactively. The tactical combat uses a turn-based grid system that prioritizes positioning and environmental interaction. Freezing enemies on ice surfaces, using explosive barrels, coordinating squad abilities. Fights reward planning over grinding. The difficulty is punishing enough that building a balanced squad matters mechanically, not just narratively. Wasteland 3 stumbles its technical polish. The co-op mode has persistent bugs. Some late-game encounters spike without clear warning. The vehicle combat becomes repetitive. The writing and companion work make those rough edges forgivable. This is the closest modern RPGs come to capturing Dragon Age Origins' moral weight. Released in 2021, this takes BioWare's party dynamics and buries them under obsessive D&D accuracy. But the companion writing still matters. You create your 4-person party from scratch and watch emergent dynamics develop through banter. The party creation system lets you assign personalities, voices, and flags that determine how your characters react to situations. A greedy character comments on loot. A cautious one warns about traps. An academic discusses magical theory. These aren't deep companion quest lines like BioWare built, but they create enough personality that your party feels distinct rather than generic. Characters argue about tactics, joke during downtime, and develop opinions based on composition and alignment. Watching your lawful cleric clash with your chaotic rogue creates friction that feels authored despite being procedurally triggered. The combat implementation is flawless. Advantage and disadvantage, reaction mechanics, verticality being important, concentration checks. Everything works exactly as it does on the tabletop. For players who want BioWare-style party RPGs with mechanically demanding tactical combat, Solasta delivers that combination cleanly. Solasta compromises in production budget. Character models are basic. Environments are functional but lack visual personality. The voice acting is competent but unremarkable. The story is straightforward high fantasy without the narrative complexity that defines BioWare's best work. As a companion-focused tactical RPG built on pure system mastery, this offers something specific that even BioWare never quite achieved. Released in 2021, this takes BioWare's companion storytelling and wraps it around Pathfinder's dense first edition rule set. Companion relationships develop across 100-hour campaigns. Romance options have nuance, and every party member has substantial quest lines. The companion writing is uneven but reaches genuine heights. Ember, a child who survived burning at the stake and now preaches redemption to demons, challenges the game's core premise about the nature of evil with such sincerity that she forces moral reconsideration. Regil is a lawful evil, Hell Knight whose rigid adherence to discipline makes him one of the most reliable party members despite his alignment. Darren's flippant cruelty hides trauma that the game reveals carefully across multiple acts. The romance options function like BioWare's best work, built around characters with agency who challenge you rather than simply affirming your choices. Arushali's redemption arc from demon to companion asks whether change is possible for those defined by evil nature. The game lets you support that transformation or reject it, and the choice carries weight. The mythic paths add a structural layer BioWare never attempted. Your choice of mythic identity shapes not just powers, but companion dynamics, story access, and how the world responds to your presence. But Wrath of the Righteous compromises its difficulty. The Pathfinder rule set is unforgiving, and the game assumes system mastery that new players don't have. Bugs were significant at launch. The Crusade strategy layer disrupts pacing for players who came for the RPG. The companion depth and moral complexity rival anything BioWare produced.
On it.
Released in 2016, this inverts the power fantasy by making you Kairos the Overlord's fate binder, a judge whose job is stabilizing conquered territories. The moral questions aren't good or evil, but how will you exercise power when all choices involve complicity? Loyal soldier in cursed armor who believes in order through conquest. An anarchist serving the system she despises because the alternative is worse. Preserving knowledge while empires burn it. A child weaponized by her own voice. Your choices shape how the party members rationalize their roles. The reputation system with companions operates on two axes, fear and loyalty. High fear makes them obedient but resentful. High loyalty makes them committed but independent. Managing these relationships requires understanding what each companion values rather than just selecting the good dialogue option. The conquest system at the beginning, where you make decisions about how territories fell before the game even starts, establishes a world where you've already made terrible choices. Those decisions ripple through the entire campaign, affecting which factions trust you, which characters survived, and which alliances remain possible. But the length is frustrating. The game ends abruptly, with major story threads unresolved and sequels that never materialized. Some paths feel less developed than others. The late-game pacing rushes through conclusions that deserved more space. Despite that truncation, Tyranny offers something no BioWare game ever attempted: a serious examination of power and complicity through companion relationships.
On it.
Knights of the Old Republic proved BioWare could translate their formula into a universe they didn't create and somehow make it feel more Star Wars than most Star Wars media. Released in 2003, this is the game that taught a generation what reactive storytelling could mean, where your alignment choices shaped not just endings, but how companions saw you, how NPCs responded, and whether you could even access certain story branches. Negative 47 Hong Kong dollars is one of gaming's greatest characters, a homicidal droid whose relationship with you evolves from servitude to respect. Bastila's conflict between duty and emotion drives the emotional core. Mission and Zailbar create a found family dynamic that makes late-game choices painful. The twist, no spoilers here, but you know which one, remains one of the best executed narrative reveals in RPG history because it recontextualizes every companion interaction, every dialogue choice, and every moral decision you made before discovering it. The game's entire structure supports that moment rather than just building toward it. The light side/dark side system worked because it affected mechanics meaningfully. Force powers scaled with alignment. Companions reacted to moral shifts in real time. The ending reflected accumulated choices rather than a single binary decision, but struggles with combat. The pseudo-real-time system with pausing feels like a compromise between action and tactics that satisfies neither fully. Movement through environments is stiff. The difficulty balance punishes certain build choices without clear feedback. The writing and companion work overcome those limitations completely. This is BioWare understanding exactly what their strengths were and leaning into them without hesitation. Released in 2002, the base campaign is forgettable, a serviceable plague mystery without character depth. But the expansions, especially Hordes of the Underdark, delivered stories that belong alongside BioWare's best work. Hordes of the Underdark focuses on a smaller, more personal narrative. The companion roster is tight, and each receives development that the base campaign companions never approached. The romances are among BioWare's most mature, built around characters with agency and perspective rather than player fantasy wish fulfillment. The henchman system, one active companion instead of a full party, streamlined complexity in ways that made individual characters matter more. When only one companion accompanies you, their personality defines the tone of your adventure. Deacon's earnest optimism creates a completely different experience from Valen's brooding intensity. The Aurora toolset transformed it into a platform. Player-made modules rivaled commercial releases. Persistent worlds, servers running 24/7 with DMs guiding players, created multiplayer experiences no other RPG offered. The base game, however, fails in pacing. The four-chapter structure drags noticeably in the middle sections. Companion depth only arrives in the expansions. Combat against large enemy groups exposes the single companion limitation as a tactical weakness. If you're exploring Neverwinter Nights in 2026, skip straight to Hordes of the Underdark. That's where BioWare's ambitions fully landed.